Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of WWE NXT for August the 5th, 2020. Shout out to the chat room, everybody watching this live, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership. We have some developments as far as the upcoming NXT TakeOver pay-per-view goes, NXT 30. That is in just over 2 weeks on the WWE Network. Let's go ahead and break down this show. We kicked off with a recap of last week, and then we had our first match of the evening, which was Rhea Ripley versus Dakota Kai, with the winner going on to challenge Io Shirai at TakeOver for the championship. Ripley dominated most of the match. However, she could not put Kai away. And then as the referee was checking on Kai, we had Mercedes Martinez show up, get on the apron, and kick Rhea Ripley. Then we had Kai hit her finisher, the GTK, to pick up the 1-2-3 victory. So Rhea Ripley's downfall continues, even though there was outside interference. And it will be Kai versus Shirai at the pay-per-view for the championship. And after the match, Mercedes Martinez further attacked poor Rhea Ripley. Ripley is feuding with Martinez, which is a good feud, but keep in mind that you got Robert Stone involved, and there's a lot of comedy and whatnot. It's just such a downfall for Ripley coming off of WrestleMania when she lost to Charlotte. She hasn't really been the same since, and maybe it's time to put her on the main roster. I think that might be a good idea at this time if there's no plan to take the title off of Shirai. Maybe get some other women in the mix. I'd love to see Candice LeRae go for the title. I think Ripley's kind of done everything there is for her to do in NXT. I think it's time for her to go to the main roster and maybe be the person to finally dethrone Bayley and win the SmackDown Women's title. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, is Robert Stone a copy of Drake Maverick? Well, I've seen people speculate that Robert Stone is actually a spoof on Tony Khan, and I have no idea if that's the case or not. He's just doing the typical cowardly heel manager, and Drake Maverick did the same thing. It's just very standard. I don't think it was necessarily copying any particular character, but I definitely see the comparisons. Not so much with Drake Maverick, but with Tony Khan. Backstage, we had Pat McAfee, who was in attendance for this show, talking to Shawn Michaels. McAfee was invited to NXT, and he was taking time off from his honeymoon to be on this show and basically make peace with Adam Cole, coming off of that confrontation they had on the Pat McAfee show. Our next match was Bronson Reed against Shane Thorne. Of course, Shane Thorne, some of you might know from his appearances on Raw a couple of months back. He teamed up with Brendan Vink. WWE is really high on Vink. I'm not sure if he's going to be back in NXT or if WWE is going to re-debut him on the main roster. Thorne had a pretty decent showing here, but we all know Bronson Reed is the guy getting the push right now. Thorne was able to get Bronson off of his feet at one point, but in the end, Bronson showed off his dominant strength. He did a full Nelson slam onto the apron and then hit the DVD in the ring, followed by a top rope splash to pick up the victory over a fairly game Shane Thorne. Then we had footage outside of Breezango being attacked by the faction led by Santos Escobar. The three guys beat the crap out of Breezango. It seems like the outside area of Full Sail University is a very dangerous place. I feel like we're always having these angles where somebody's getting beat up and attacked on the outside. you got to watch yourself. You got to have eyes in the back of your head when you arrive to Full Sail University. We had Robert Stone interviewed backstage, and he talked about the attack earlier from Martinez onto Ripley. He said that Ripley may be done with the Robert Stone brand, but the Robert Stone brand is not done with them. Next up, we had Damian Priest versus Oney Lorcan and the debuting Ridge Holland in a triple threat match for one of those TakeOver North American title ladder match spots. Going into this match, Priest was the favorite. He even touted that in his promo, and sure enough, the favorite won. Not a whole lot to say about it. Holland looked pretty good in his debut. He's got some size. I could see him getting a pretty decent push in the coming weeks, but this was more about featuring the guy who's already established, and that person is Damian Priest. Priest pinned Lorcan with the Reckoning to advance to the ladder match at the pay-per-view. And then we had Keith Lee versus Cameron Grimes. I'm always thinking of Frank Grimes or Rick Grimes, but his name is Cameron Grimes. Pretty much what you would expect, being that Keith Lee is the world champion. You're not really going to see any kind of upset here, and Lee basically dominated this match. Grimes did get a near fall, but in the end, Lee picked up the victory with the Spirit Bomb, and then after the match, we had the lights go out, and Karrion Kross appeared on the big screen and said, "It looks like we're doing things the hard way." And then it was revealed that Kross had laid out Danny Burch. And I believe a match was announced for them on next week's show. Basically, it's going to be a glorified squash, but I'm sure, well, maybe not so sure in this case. Maybe Burch will look decent, but in this type of match, I think Kross should be destroying people. So poor Danny Burch is probably going to get his ass whipped and get his wig split on next week's show. We had a Zoom call from William Regal, the commissioner, announcing that Dexter Lumis has been pulled from the North American title ladder match due to an ankle injury. And as a result, there will be matches on next week's show between people that were not pinned or submitted, basically people that did not take the fall in the triple threat matches. They will get a second opportunity, and I believe two of them, there'll be two singles matches, and then the two winners will be the final two participants in the ladder match. So this could be Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano's way to get into the ladder match. You would think those guys would be in a ladder match at TakeOver, so we'll see what happens with that. And then we had Santos Escobar with his faction, Legado del Fantasma. They brought out Fandango, who was beaten up in the parking lot. He cut a promo, talked about how Lucha Libre is an art. It's not to be exploited. And he mentioned at Great American Bash how Breezango mocked the Lucha Libre culture. Tyler Breeze attempted to make the save, but he got laid out again. And Escobar finished his promo by saying that Isaiah Swerve Scott, he better not speak the name of Santos Escobar again, or he will end up having the same future as Breezango. Backstage, we had Damian Priest, or actually this was outside again. Damian Priest cut a promo, and he was confronted by Bronson Reed, and a match was set up between the two of them. Then we had Pat McAfee come out on commentary with Tom Phillips. Interesting how this worked out, where Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix are doing play-by-play from home. But you have Tom Phillips there at Full Sail University, and McAfee was there doing commentary with Phillips, but then you would still have Ronaldo and Beth Phoenix's commentary as well. A little interesting way that this was set up here. Jeff Meacham with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, JM. He says, anyone else grateful for all the little things? So blessed to be able to stream today and be here with y'all. Home sweet home. We are very happy, Jeff, on behalf of everyone at NoDQ.com, that you're better now. Well, apparently you never had COVID, that was a false positive or whatever, but we're glad you're doing well. You're home. Stay safe, Jeff. And we're glad you're contributing on your channel and on NoDQ.com. And Adrian sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Adrian. He says, will Pat McAfee be better in the ring than Lawrence Taylor? I'm going to go on a limb and say yes. I don't think there's going to be a problem with him. Now, why did Jeff delete Adrian's super chat? Was there anything wrong with that comment? I did not think that comment was out of line. I guess Jeff will have to explain himself. How could you do that, Jeff, to the reigning and defending No DQ Super Chat champion? By the way, tune into No DQ&A video Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you tune into the premiere, if you leave the biggest Super Chat donation, you can be the new champion. So we had Tegan Nox versus Indi Hartwell. And really the focus of this match was Pat McAfee. He was there on commentary talking about wanting to bury the hatchet, how he took time off from his honeymoon to get into good graces with Adam Cole. The match itself almost felt like an afterthought. Tegan Nox picked up the victory, and I feel bad for the ladies because the focus was really not on the match. You did have Ronaldo and Beth Phoenix doing the commentary, but then you had McAfee and Tom Phillips talking about the storyline with Adam Cole. And then we had our main event of the evening. We had Imperium defending the tag team titles against the Undisputed Era, which was the reunited Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish teaming up for the first time since the pandemic started. But once again, the real story here was Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. McAfee was still there doing commentary. We had Adam Cole out there at ringside. And during the match, we had McAfee continuing to joke about Adam Cole's height. Even though he wanted to bury the hatchet, he was still taking shots at Cole for being short. He said that Cole has a child's body, but he has a man's brain. Phillips was like, dude, you know Adam Cole is like 15 feet away and he can actually hear what you're saying. That surprises me. I'm going to call BS on that one because you got all those guys standing around at ringside making noise, banging on the plexiglass. How can Adam Cole hear Pat McAfee? I don't think he was screaming, was he? But anyways, you know, this is how the storyline was going to progress here. So Beth Phoenix, she got fed up, and I guess she turned off her Skype call or her Zoom call. She said she was done. She was tired of the disrespect from Pat McAfee. I guess this means McAfee's a heel, but we'll talk about that more here in a minute. Even though Adam Cole's been a heel with Undisputed Era. Cole walked up to McAfee and said he can hear everything that McAfee's saying, and McAfee needs to chill out. McAfee responded by saying that Cole is just being an angry little elf. At this point, Cole had enough. He grabbed the bottle of water and threw the water at McAfee, and then all hell broke loose. Referees came out to try and separate them, and you knew it was getting serious when Shawn Michaels and Triple H tried to keep these two apart. And during the chaos, Imperium took advantage because Undisputed Era got distracted. They hit the European Bomb, 1, 2, 3, pinning Bobby Fish to retain their championships. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, is Adam Cole, does he have half the brain that Sid Vicious does? Well, according to McAfee, that's the one thing Cole has going for him. He doesn't have the height, but he has the brain power. So he's got to have more of a brain than Sid Vicious. If McAfee really wanted to diss Cole, he would have used that Sid line, saying that Cole has half the brain that Sid Vicious does. And we had this continued chaotic situation, and McAfee was on the verge of leaving, but then he walked back up to Cole and continued to trash talk him and say, nothing's ever going to change, you're always going to be short, yada, yada, yada. Cole tried to jump over the announce desk, but the referees continued to hold him down, and that's when McAfee took a cheap shot. He did a running punt kick to the stomach of Cole, and then Triple H was just outraged. He was so pissed off. He shoved McAfee twice. Triple H did a great job here, seeming like he was really angry at McAfee. And this was a pretty big ending to the show, setting up what we now know is an official match for TakeOver. Earlier today, Triple H went on ESPN and said if McAfee wants to put his money where his mouth is, get in the ring with Adam Cole at TakeOver. And McAfee went on Twitter, posted a video, and accepted the challenge. It is official. TakeOver 30. Pat McAfee in his first pay-per-view match versus Adam Cole, baby. The Game is on 100 with a $2 super chat says, McAfee might win by WWE logic. I hope not. I would not have a problem with that. And let me talk about why I think this is a good way to get McAfee established as an in-ring performer. The Jeff Meacham Network, Jeff with a $2 super chat says, Cole definitely has twice the working legs as Sid. Ooh, harsh one from good old JM Jeff Meacham. A lot of people on social media are crapping on this, and I don't see a problem with it. I'm fine with this match. I don't get the Pat McAfee hate. I think he's a really solid talker. I've enjoyed his work on the kickoffs, and I think he's clearly going to be around more than Lawrence Taylor, who came in for a one-off, and that was it. You know, Pat McAfee's been involved with WWE, and I suspect he'll continue to be involved after this match. I'm fine with WWE doing this match for TakeOver. I do not see it as Adam Cole being demoted. I think that, if anything, WWE has confidence in Cole to carry this match and make McAfee look like a superstar. Steve-O doesn't agree. He says, from world champion to this BS. People are so mad about this, but McAfee has some star potential. Adam Cole, he's a great worker, but he's not going to be a top guy, most likely. He might get to Daniel Bryan level. Maybe. But he could also bomb on the main roster. I think he should be going to the main roster. I think TakeOver should be it for him. I think Cole puts over McAfee, and Undisputed Era go to the main roster. There's nothing else for them to do other than like a full-fledged breakup. But I'd like to see Undisputed Era on the main roster raising some hell. And I think they would all be stronger together, especially on the main roster than apart. So I say put them on the main roster and give Undisputed Era some new life. They've been in NXT for like 3 years as a group now. It's time to move on and do something different. Now, let me get to some of the super chats here. Mike B sent in a $5 super chat. He says, Jeff, Aaron, and Team No DQ are the real A-team. Well, thank you very much for that, Mike B. I really do appreciate it. And Ken, terminated by Google, sent in a $5 super chat. Says, why do you think Karrion Kross cannot use the Killer moniker? Kowalski can use Killer because he mostly worked for Vince Sr. By the way, Godspeed to Meacham's health. I think WWE just doesn't want to use that name when they're technically a PG company. Now, of course, WWE has been pushing the envelope. I mean, for crying out loud, we had a guy's eye pulled out of its socket on the last WWE pay-per-view. So why are they so upset about the name Killer? I mean, it really doesn't make much sense, but I guess also because he used that name in Impact, WWE has to have their own names, they don't want to use the Impact Wrestling name. Very few guys got to keep their pre-WWE names. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, a couple of guys got to keep their names without WWE having to change things up. But Karrion Kross wasn't really this huge star. Like, he was in Impact Wrestling, but it was during a time when Impact was very low on the totem pole. It wasn't like peak TNA like 2009 when Samoa Joe and AJ were there. And people know AJ and Joe as two of the top stars of Impact. Kross was a guy in Impact. He wasn't really a top-tier star at that point in time, or at any point during that run. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, McAfee haters are mostly likely Colt haters. Colt Cabana? I'm not sure which Colt you're talking about. Or is that a football team? See, I'm not a sports guy, so if that's a sports reference, went way over my head. Dwayne Atkinson with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Dwayne. He says, I smell a rat seeing Triple H is involved, knowing his history of betrayals. I like that. I don't know if Triple H is going to turn heel in NXT, but how about that if he screwed over Adam Cole and banned Undisputed Era from NXT? That would be a good way to get rid of them, and then they would go to Raw and SmackDown and rebel. I like that idea. You just came up with a really good idea, Dwayne, in my opinion. I think WWE should consider doing something like that. I do think TakeOver should be Cole's last match. So if it's his last match, he should be putting over McAfee. And if you want to protect Cole, there you go. You got a way out of it. You can do a screw job. So yeah, this is one of those cases, people are always telling me you shouldn't judge things, you shouldn't rush to judgment, you should let things breathe. This is NXT. NXT almost never screws things up. I think this is going to be fine. I think Adam Cole and Pat McAfee will have a significantly better match than Bam Bam Bigelow versus LT. I think that's a given. And I think McAfee will surprise people. I'm looking forward to the match, and I'm just surprised that people are crapping on it so much. I think it's going to surprise people. I think it's going to be surprisingly a very entertaining match. I have confidence in everybody involved. It's not Vince's thing with Triple H and Adam Cole and Pat McAfee with all their creative minds together. I think they're going to pull off something good. So anyways, that's my thoughts on NXT this week. Thank you guys for tuning in for this live stream. I'll be back for SmackDown. Tune in for that after SmackDown ends. And then this weekend, No DQ&A video returns Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Stay positive. And I will see you all next time.